presentation as such for the day. So I have, because most of the things that or the stuff that we are going to do is just practical kind of stuff. So that's the reason I haven't created PPT. So anyways, just let's move ahead. I have few questions that we'll solve together before moving up with the next session, that is our current session. So the questions are based on dictionary and set, and then we'll have a small discussion about the common interview questions that you also raised. What's the difference in between pop, item, and remove, and how to answer those questions in a very correct way. So we'll have that discussion, and then we will move ahead with the strings, the functions which we can implement on a string, some of the very basic built-in function that are available in Python, and if time permits, then we can take if-else statement. So this is basically the agenda for the day. I have tried creating one short quiz. So let me just open that.
Yeah, Prachi, actually, I didn't got time to get through the, last session's video. So
no issues. We'll solve the questions together.
Yeah, so I didn't got chance to, go through the functions which you told me to look into it. So
okay, so you can do it afterwards. Chalega.
Yeah, and also for the quiz which you shared the link, I was trying to do, but it says that the quiz is not valid. So I couldn't.
Okay, I'll just check it from my end. What's the exact issue, and then we'll do it. We'll solve it together. Okay? So you can solve it tomorrow as well. No issues with that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the first question. I hope the question is clear and they're properly visible. So suppose we have this dictionary.
Prachi, I am able to see this Anaconda Navigator screen.
Okay, just a second. I think I haven't started sharing. Yeah, I think now it's visible. So the first question is type. You just have to create. Now is not visible.
Still, I'm able to see this Anaconda Navigator screen.
Okay, just a second. Let me just check. Are you getting quiz window?
Yeah, now the quiz window is there.
Okay. So the first question is, you have to create a dictionary with the given entries. That is, A is equal to 100, B is equal to 200, C is equal to 300. And then we have to check whether this value 200 is present in that dictionary or not. So what do you think, what we have to do in order to solve this question? I hope the question is clear, right?
Yeah, so basically we have to check whether this 200
values present in our dictionary or not. That's the question.
Okay, so I think just a minute, just give me a minute.
While simultaneously simply type the syntax.
Yeah, I was actually doing that.
Okay.
So
let's write it together. No issues.
Yeah, sure. So let's say like we can say A equal to 100.
Yes. B equal to 200 and C equal to 300. This was a given dictionary. And we have to check whether the 200 is present in given dictionary.
Okay. So is there a function where we can just check that if this
Yes. So there is a function called as in function. So we can write like this: print 200 in sample underscore. Still it is not visible.
Yeah, I am able to see that question list.
I don't know why it's occurring. Just a second. I just hope now the screen is visible.
Yes, yes. Now
And
it's
when I
visible.
toggle my screen, is this screen
Yeah.
visible now? Question screen?
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
it's visible.
So that was a mistake from my end only. I haven't selected it properly. Anyways, so it is right like this. So it is generating the result as true. So what we are doing, we are checking whether this 200 value is present in the given dictionary. We know that the 200 value, if it is present, we have to check it in the values part and not in a key part, right? And that's why we are writing whether 200 in sample underscore deck dot value. So values in this, it will simply check whether it's 100, whether it's matching with 100, whether it's matching with 200, whether it's matching with 300. When it gets that, yes, there exists at least one key which has the value which is asked in the question. So this in operator will return the result as true, and that's why you're getting true as a result. So for example, if we have fast 2000 over here, then it will return the result as false because 2000 is not present into that certain given dictionary. So likewise, we can use this in and not in. So there is one more, what you can say, a keyword called as a not in. So suppose if I'm writing 2000 not in sample tick dot values, then in that case still it will return true. The reason is now instead of in, we are checking not in. That means whether 2000 is not present in the values. So yes, it is not present in those values because the values are either 100, 200 or 300. So this is the way using which you can check whether the value is present in the given dictionary or not. There is one more way, that is using iterations as well. We can find out whether the value matches with the given value or not, but we haven't yet moved to for or any other kind of loop, and that's why we are using these functions, inbuilt functions or inbuilt keywords such as del, in, not in, and so on, in order to assess whether the value is present in the dictionary or whether it is not present in the dictionary. I just hope the first question is clear.
Sorry to interrupt, Prachi.
Huh?
Uday just joined. I'll just like to confirm whether the screen and the screen is visible and the voice is audible.
Okay, okay.
Uday, can you please respond if the screen is visible and the voice is audible?
Sir, actually, I had a word with him, so he mentioned that he has some network issues, and so. Uday, can you hear us? Uday, I'll just send a message to him.
No issues, Prachi. You can continue. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dhruv.
Yeah. So I just hope, Ankur, this part is clear, that the use of in and not in and how to check whether a certain value is present in the dictionary or not, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
let us
It's
check the next question and let's move to the next one. Okay, so suppose this is a dictionary given to us that rename key city, just don't worry about this first one. Rename key city to location in the following dictionary. So we have been provided with the dictionary which consists of name, age, salary, and city information. So what we want basically in the result set is, we are getting city is equal to New York. Instead of that city is equal to New York, I want to have location is equal to New York. So I want that New York to keep as it is, but instead of city, I just want it to get displayed as a location. So in a simple terms, I want to rename my key city to location for the given dictionary. So you can just write any random names for name, age, salary, and city value, and you can think about how we can solve this question.
okay. Just a minute.
Hmm. So for a simplicity, I'll just try to write this, or I'll create this dictionary so that at a time that will be there on your screen. So suppose I'm just
I
changing the
think,
name.
yeah,
Huh.
so in this we can do like just a minute, sample sample underscore dictionary,
Correct.
then bracket,
Hmm.
and then city
Hmm.
equal to, and then quotes, with quotes we can change the value.
Okay, that is one way. And if I just ask you to solve this question using suppose pop, because last time we had this discussion related to why do we use this pop or pop item and so on. So
Yeah.
can you just think about that? Is it possible to solve this question using the pop?
I think in this using
Hmm.
pop, we can the item will be removed, but not will. I don't think it will be replaced.
Okay, so what does pop does for us? It pops out a certain item, right? It returns that popped item. So for example, if I'm simply saying sample underscore dict dot pop city, so what it will return me? So it will return me the output as Mumbai. So that output we can store in one new key, like say location. So that is one way possible. I know I may sound slightly difficult, but it's very simple to solve it. So suppose I'm creating this location, and then here I'll write sample dict dot pop, and here I'll simply specify city. So if I just check my sample underscore dictionary, then you can find out that the city is now renamed as a location. This is one more way. Why I clicked on this certain way, because in the last session we were having that discussions about where the pop is actually used, or how it is actually used, or what's the meaning of returning some value, and why it
Yeah.
is important for some functions to return some value. So in this case, as we know that when we use pop function, we have to pass the certain key that we want to pop out, right? So I am passing that certain keys, what it is going to return. So this function will return me the value associated with it. So the value associated with it was obviously Bombay, that is Mumbai. And this Mumbai value we are storing in some new key that we are creating as a location. So this is basically the use of pop function. So last time I couldn't explain that because of the shortage of time, but I think this example could have solved that thing, that what is returning a value by a function, and why it is that few functions returns the value. So few function return the value because you can easily access those values, and if you want to perform anything based on those values, then it becomes very quick kind of operation as compared to that of not returning the value. Then you have to write the print statements and everything. So this comes sometimes handy for few of the questions. So that's the reason that pop can be used very efficiently in such kind of problems. I hope the problem is clear.
Yeah, but I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like what I understand was that for pop, actually, if we talk about list, if we use a pop in that, then it removes the last item randomly, correct?
Not
So
randomly, the last one, because
last
as
one,
per your
last
LiPo
one,
architecture.
correct, correct. It gets removed. So when we are using pop over here in this example, uh, so shouldn't this like how the replacement will come through pop? I mean, like it should only remove that particular
When you
value.
use pop item, that time it removes your last one. Here we are using simply pop. So pop requires you to pass the certain index that you want to remove. I hope the difference is clear. When we use pop item, that time it removes your the last element, whatever that we have inserted in the list or in the dictionary. So here we are not using pop item, we are using pop, and that's why we are passing the specific element that we want to remove. Is
Okay,
it fine? So
but like in the list, what we saw was the example that not the pop item. It even in pop, it was
hmm.
removing the last element.
So if you are not passing anything, then for the list, it might have been removing your last element. In this case, you are specifying. In this case, you are specifying that what should be the element that you want to kick out from the entire dictionary. So that time it is going to kick out that specific only, because there is something called as the default parameter for a few of the methods. So for this pop, the default parameter or the default index is -1. So what is -1? -1 is nothing but the last element that is there inside any collection that we have. So it can be list or it can be a dictionary in the current set. So that's why if by default, if you're not providing any value, like if I'm not providing any certain index at that position, then it is going to remove the last element or the last entry, because the default value of that parameter is -1. That indicates the last entry of that given sequence. Is it fine? Is it clear?
Yeah, it's
So,
clear. And one more thing. Let's say if you are mentioning pop and you are mentioning city, so I believe this key value, this key city has been replaced by location, correct?
Correct. I mean, what it is actually doing is when we are writing simple sample dict dot pop city, so it searches for this certain key. So that key is nothing but your here city is equal to Mumbai. So that key will be popped out, and its value, that is Mumbai, that will be returned by this function. So whatever value is returned by this function, we are simply trying to capture that value into some new key. I hope this makes more sense.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever I have to replace a key or value, so the idea is to keep the replaced value left side, and then right side would be the key which I want to get replaced with.
Exactly. So you can use this kind of fund. Whatever you want, the new key to be created, obviously that we have to write always in any programming language on the left side only, because in all programming language, whatever we write after this comma, that is executed first, and the result of that is always inserted into the left hand side wala expression that we write. So obviously every time in every programming language, we have to write that new key that we want to access on the left, and whatever answer you are expecting, it might be a certain mathematical expression, or it can be any kind of such method that we are writing, which is returning some kind of answer, that should always be written on the right hand side. Make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
now it's clear.
And
Now it's
yeah, and what we will do is we will take one list ka example also, so that wo pop item and remove ka jo thoda sa confusion hai, that will also get clear. Okay, so we'll do that. Let us try to check the third question here. And as I said, jitne zyada problems you are going to solve on the dictionary or set or list or tuple, you will find out there are multiple ways of doing the same thing. Like you also said one more way of performing the same thing, that was also correct. This is also correct. There can be one more way or infinite ways in order to perform a certain thing in any programming language. So whenever you'll see a problem next time now, you'll think of, okay, this was also one way, ye bhi ho sakta tha, ya fir this is also what we could have done. So that is going to be there. So I just request you to solve as much problems as possible, so that at the end of the day, you will have a lot of alternatives to do a very simple task in any programming language. Anyways, let us check this next one. So in this question, we have been asked to change Brad's salary to 8,500 from the given dictionary. So Brad's salary is currently 6,500. We want to change it to 8,500.
okay. So we can use the pop method here.
Just check. We are not supposed to change the key. We want to change the value.
Okay. If it's the value, then probably we can do the same way as I told that. Let's say
dictionary name.
Sample DICT dot
dot will work.
No, not dot. Sorry, bracket.
Correct.
Salary. Then bracket close equal to, and the value we want to 8,500.
But if you directly write salary, don't you think your interpreter will get confused that supposed to employee 1 or employee 2 or employee 3.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So EMP3 dot salary probably.
Okay, we will see this problem. We'll solve this problem so that the idea will get clear. So suppose say we are creating the sample dictionary with few values. I'll write it on the next line. Say EMP1 is having the value. Let me check what I have assigned. Okay, otherwise I'll simply change the names. So suppose say the first name is Karachi, and suppose say the salary associated with that name is some 32,000. Then let's create one more key. We'll call it as EMP2. This is a kind of nested dictionary, you can see, because in this case we have dictionary inside dictionary. Suppose the name that I want here is say Alex, and here the salary that I would like to give to this person is any random number. Okay, so we have created our dictionary so far. Now we'll say that sample underscore dictionary के अंदर EMP1, whatever key that we have, go inside this and check the salary of this person and simply change that salary to, I suppose, 8,500. Some value was given. Just run this and try to print sample dictionary. Yeah. So you can see for the employee one, the name is Prachi and the salary is now changed to the given salary, that is 8,500. So this is a kind of nested dictionary. So in the last session, we simply saw how to create the nested kind of dictionary. And this is example just to understand how to access the values or simply change the value of a certain keys. I could say the collection of the keys, because it's a kind of what you can say hierarchical kind of structure. So you have to write the first key, then inside that whatever is the next key, and then finally the value that you want to change. I know you were aware about this answer, but slightly you just got confused in that salary wala part. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Great. Here is the next question. Just forget about this type Y. The question is from here. Get the key of minimum value from the following dictionary. This is slightly difficult, I could say, but just think of it if you can.
Minimum.
And hint is there is a function called as sorted.
Okay.
So obviously sorted will sort your keys.
Just sorted, then probably we can use the function sorted bracket. So can we use this print function?
Yes, we can use the print function.
So
and
print,
you have to use something called as min function as well. That's the second bit.
okay. So if we use the print function like the print bracket sorted, then probably we can bracket. And in that we can write the sample DICT and then bracket close, and I think then it will take the minimum value.
Okay. So I could say 80% your answer was correct. So I'll just write the corrected answer because I know sorted function we haven't discussed. So let me just write the solution and you can type and check whether you are getting correct result for this or not. This is keys ka bracket close. This is for the sorted and this is for the minimum. Yeah, so this is basically the structure that you have to write in order to get the result. So it will search for the keys and in that it will try to sort your keys and then it will try to find out the one which is minimum. So at the end you will get the result as I think math for this certain data. Just try working on this.
Okay.
So what I will do is I will try running this. Just try running this with a simple code. So I'll simply write sample dictionary is equal to, we are creating this physics. And there were some marks, I don't exactly remember the values and some writing random values. Then the next one was math. And let's write some random value, suppose 65. Then next one is history. And suppose there is a value associated with it, that is 75. So this is basically our dictionary is created and now we'll write that code, that minimum value is equal to minimum sorted. What we are going to sort? So sample dictionaries ka value of keys. And now let's simply try to print this minimum underscore val. So it is sorting your key. So yeah, my question was slightly wrong. Let me just check what I have given as a question. Just so yeah, the question that I wrote and the question that I expected was slightly wrong. So the question was to find out the minimum key now. So it will be as per the alphabetical order. And that's why history is the answer for this question. So we are having the keys physics, maths, and history. And we are sorting them because as per the question, it was asked to find out the minimum key. So the minimum key in this case, obviously all the keys are alphabetical. So the minimum and maximum of the keys are nothing but are alphabetically sorted values. So in P, M, and H, H comes alphabetically first. So the answer is history over here. I hope this question is clear.
Values, yeah. Now it's fine.
So if we are writing values over there, then it will give you the minimum value. If you are writing key, then it will provide you the minimum value of key. Keys will be sorted in the alphabetical order and values will be sorted obviously in a numerical order. And instead of min, if we write max, then obviously we'll get those max, max out of all the three values or keys, whatever that we are specifying. I just hope this is clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, let's try next question then. I have given the default answer for every question as A. That's why I'm typing A and it's moving to the next question. Okay. The rather very simple question. Create a set and add any three elements into that set. So let me write the question here so that simultaneously I can solve. Create set and add three elements in the set. So procedure wise, generally when such kind of questions are asked, we have to first create the empty set. Procedure wise, I'm saying there can be multiple ways. And then you can use this add function or you can use update function to add the values into that empty set. So this is the way that you can use. Otherwise, you can simply use add to add the 3 values, or you can use update, whatever is, whatever way that you want. But these are the 2 options that are available, either add or update.
Got it.
And yeah, what's the difference in between add and update? So if you are using add, then it can add only one value at a time in your set. And if you are using update, then you can create list. And in that list, you can pass as many values as you want to pass, and that will get updated in your existing set that you have created. So that's basically the difference in between add and update when we use with respect to set. So I think I should show you one example. So for example, I'm creating the set1 is equal to set. So this is the empty set that we have created. What we will do is we will simply say set1 dot add. I'll add this one value. Suppose that value is, say, color red. And if we just create something like this, set1 dot update, and let us just try to pass list of elements. So I'm writing blue as one color and green as another color. You can write as many as you want, and then simply try to print this set1. So you will get as a result that it is adding the 3 entries. Obviously the addition will not be there. The addition will not be there. I mean, the elements will not be added as per the way that you have added, because you know that set is not ordered. So the order in which you have given the elements and the order in which you are getting the elements in the output might be slightly different. So no need to panic about it. So basically in update, what we can use, so for the update, we can use list or we can use tuple over here. So you can create a tuple or you can create a list and you can pass that in the update function, so that at a time you can add multiple elements, or in fact you can have another set as well. So you can create one more set, and that set also, if you want to update or merge to the previous set, then also it is possible to do with the update method. But if you are using add method, then at a time you can add only one element to the existing set. So that's the difference.
Okay.
Okay, because most of the time what happens, like in the last session, we discussed about all these methods, but we haven't discussed that in which situation basically which is better to use. So if you have multiple elements to add, then using add method is quite boring and it's not feasible to do it. In that case, we have to use the update method. Okay, let us check a few more questions based on the set. Okay, so I'll write the question here only. A very, very and very simple question. Suppose say create list of say 5 elements and remove all elements from that, not list, we are talking about set of 5 elements, and remove all 5 elements from that set. A very simple question. So first you simply have to create one set wherein you are going to add few elements. So suppose those elements that we are going to add are say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Only for simplicity, I have created this kind of set. And then what we have to do is we have to remove all the elements. So any idea about which function we can use here?
Remove function?
No, we have to use clear function.
Clear function.
Clear function, because you have to remove all the entries which are there present inside this set that we have created. And so we have to use set1 dot clear. We don't pass any parameter as such to the clear, because the only intention of clear function is to clear the entire set. That means you have to truncate all the elements which are present in that inside that set, and that's why we are not mentioning anything like any specific entry to be removed or something like that. Quite simple question. Suppose let's take next question. We have one set, let's call it as S1 with the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have another set, say S2, with the values 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. What we have to do in this is I have to get difference of both the sets. I just hope what is the meaning of difference, that is clear. I mean, you just have to find the elements which are present in the given set, but not in the another set. So you have to find out the difference of Sn with respect to Sn2 or S1 with respect to S2, and you have to find out the difference of S2 with respect to S2. So I think the function is quite clear in this case that what you are supposed to use.
Correct.
Because the answer itself is the name of the function is difference only. So it's very simple. You can say S1 dot difference and just pass this second set over here, and you can say print S2 dot difference and S1. Okay, so this is how you'll find out the elements which are present in set 1 but not in set 2, or the elements which are present in set 2 but not in set 1. There is one more easier way of doing this as well. So you could have also written print S1 minus S2, and you could have written this as print S2 minus S1. So this is a simpler alternative according to me in order to solve the given question. Okay, is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, rather simple to understand. I hope it's not that difficult. One more question, and probably the last question, because I know that this dictionary and dictionary topic specifically is slightly confusing, and that's why I'm having some more questions on that topic. So suppose we are creating this dictionary, dict1, with few parameters. Those parameters are name. Say the name is Prachi. We want to have the another parameter as age. Suppose the age is 30. And suppose we have another parameter, say BMI. And the value associated with BMI is 27. And the question is, update the value, or you can say add 2 units in existing value of age. Okay, try solving this. This is the last question.
Okay, we need to add the 2 units. So the age should be 32, right?
Yes, the age should be 32.
So can we replace the value directly?
Okay, just try doing it.
Okay, so it should be.
I simply want the value of age to be made as 32. You can use any way that best suits you.
Okay, so I think I'm just writing in chat box, so you can just let me know. I just this
Okay, you have
dictionary.
given the code dot age is equal to 32. Okay, so you are trying to update the age over.
Correct.
So this is correct way, and I'll show you one more way to do the same thing. I mean that is slightly lengthier, but just one more way,
Yeah.
so that you can remember that as well in case whenever if you need it. So for example, in this dictionary one, we want to update the value of age. So we can say that this is equal to age. And suppose you want to, I mean, if you have any certain value, say, and that value is present in one parameter.
Okay.
And if you want to do like that, then you can simply pass that parameter like this. So in case you have been given some parameter, say n is equal to some 5 or some logic is given, और उस logic में जो result आपको मिलता है, that is stored in some variable called as a or n or something like that, and उस variable का जो value है, that you have to add inside your age. So if you want to do something like this, then this method you can use, but the one that you have told me, that is also correct. So these are simply the different ways of performing the same thing. I just hope all these things are clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move for the today's agenda. So today's agenda is, I won't say it's not that difficult as compared to what we have seen so far, because the things are quite simple, because we are going to first learn about the inbuilt functions of Python. But yeah, before that, I think you asked me one question yesterday about what is the difference in between pop item and remove. So I'll just quickly discuss that question and then we will move ahead. So pop item, remove, and let's take this delete. So generally there is a confusion in when to use pop, when to use pop item, when to use remove, and when to use delete. So we'll try to solve this question first using some dictionary, and then we'll try to check this question using list as well, so that there won't be any issues when you are using list. So list में कैसे इसको use करना है, और when we are using dictionary, तो dictionary में क्या use करना है. And one thing I hope that is clear to you. I mean, we have discussed that कभी भी अगर confusion होता है, that certain thing is or a certain function is available in dictionary or whether it is available in list, then you can simply use that dir, and then you can check whether that function is available or not. तो वहां से एक idea आता है, because most of the time we tend to forget that okay, which is the function used over here, or which function is not available in a given a certain sequence. So it happens with us as well. So you just have to check that dir and find out that which function is available and which function is not available. So I just have this example already created just to save the time. So for example, we have this dictionary which consists of the value of some sample portfolios. Say for Apple, the value of shares is some 100 units. For Google, it is 50, and MS50 it is supposed to 200. So first, we are simply creating this shares object, and then we are simply printing the values over here. Now, if someone asks you to remove this entry called as Google from the shares, then you can use this pop function, because in pop function, you can pass the key that you want to remove from your existing dictionary. So that's why it becomes a very handy kind of tool. We can't use index over here because indexing is not available whenever it comes to dictionary as well as whenever it comes to set. So we have to pass key, or we have to pass, in terms of set, you have to pass the value that you exactly want to remove from that set. So in terms of dictionary, we are passing this key that is nothing but this Google. So whenever you'll pass this, then you'll find out that the shares.pop is going to remove that certain key, and the value that is nothing but 50 will be stored in this variable called as returned value. It's not compulsory to save this value. Just in order to understand what do we mean by returning value, I have written the code in this way. So let me just show you the code execution so the things will be very clear. So in first case, we are printing this original dictionary. So the original dictionary consists of Apple, Google, MS50 with their respective prices. Then next time, we are using the pop function in order to remove this GOOG, that is nothing but Google shares, from the existing shares. If you just can see, we are writing a returned value is equal to this, and on the next statements, we are reprinting that share dictionary as well as the value that is returned by the pop function. So the value that pop function will return is obviously 50 because we are removing key Google. So its associated value is 50. So it's returning you that certain value, and at the same time you will see that the Google and 50, that is its key as well as pair, both has been removed from the given dictionary. Then suppose say we are adding this new value called as MSFT, that is equal to 200, and we are creating this new dictionary now. Again, we are printing the dictionary, so that will be something like this, which is very simple to understand. In this case, again, we are removing shares.pop, and this time we are passing Tesla, that is TSLA. So when you write like this, and if you are not passing this argument, that is not present in the dictionary, so what will happen? It will simply say you that it's not, I mean, let me just show you so that you will come to know that why it is important to write that extra default parameter. See this. Now in this case, yeah, I am writing shares.pop is equal to Tesla, and its value should be returned into the return var. But I know that in my existing dictionary that I have created, I don't have any key with the name Tesla. And that's why it is generating a kind of error that's that certain value is not present, the key is not present, and still you are trying to remove it. Now, here, if I just write key not available, and if I print the statement again, you'll get that it won't give you the error. I mean, your execution will not halt. You won't get any kind of error. Instead, this message will be printed on the screen that key is not available. This is basically, what's the use of having this default value at the end, or this using this default value at the end, because it helps you to get rid of those error statements. So if you are writing the default value and if you pass a certain key that is not present inside the given list of the keys in the given dictionary, so it is not going to halt your execution. It is not going to give any kind of error, but instead it will simply display that message. Now you may think that iska kya requirement hai? If I have not done, to mujhe sirf error aata, kya farak padta? So just think that this is the last statement of your code, and uske baad ek kuch alag logical sequence of code start ho raha hai, which is not having any relation with the previous one. But you know that Python is an interpreter. So if you are passing multiple lines to that interpreter, then whenever it encounters error over here, it will not parse your next statement. And उसके वजह से एक जहां पे भी error होगा, उसके next statements आप parse ही नहीं कर पाओगे, वो interpret ही नहीं हो जाए. And that's the reason your code execution will stop at that point. So you can have such kind of hacks so that the code execution will not be stopped at that point. The remaining statements or the next statements that you have written, they can also get passed. Now, isko solve karne ke liye, I mean, there is something very technical called as exceptional handling, which is exception handling, which is used in programming, because such kind of errors can occur in the code, and in order to find out those errors, and in order to, not letting go your entire program into the error state, there is one option called as the exception handling that we are going to say later stage of this course. Obviously, we'll see that. But वो एक entire topic है, and this is just a way. I just suggested that it's always good to write some kind of default argument, that if the value that you want to pop is not present, then that default argument will be printed on the screen. Okay, so I just hope the discussion related to the pop function is at least clear, that what is the use of pop and how to use it, and what do we mean by returning value from the pop, because yehi most of the times we have this doubt only, that what do we mean by returning value, or what is the exact meaning of pop returns the value. So what does it actually do? So it simply throws you the value of that respective key that you are searching for, or that you want to remove from your data or dictionary. Then comes the next one, that is nothing but your pop item. So why to use pop item? So pop item may, there is no need for you to pass any key as such. Pop item uses something called as last in first out, which is called as the LIFO structure. So the element that we enter last, it can be your dictionary, it can be your list, or it can be any other kind of sequential structure which accepts more than one entry. So if you are entering multiple elements, the one which comes at the last will be removed first. That's why it is called as LIFO kind of structure. So there is no need to pass any kind of index or any kind of key when we use pop item, because blindly it is going to remove the last one, right? So again, given the same example, we are creating this shares as a variable which will have the value of the share, and the name of the company. And then simply we are removing a certain, say the last value from that given dictionary. So if you just try running this, so originally your value of that dictionary was Apple with the respective value of Apple shares, then Google, and then MSFT. Now, when you are using pop item for the first time, see, we are storing the value returned by the pop item again in this variable called as returned val. So what this will going to store, this will be going to store your last item that was there present in the dictionary that was kicked out because you are using pop item, which works as per the constraint of LIFO, that is last in, first out. So which was last to in this dictionary, MSFT 200. This was last to get in inside this dictionary. And that's why you'll find out your returned val consists of the value MSFT and 200. Okay, so if you simply try to print that value, so it will print that value. And after printing that value, if you reprint your shares again, because now your shares dictionary is updated as it doesn't have that last key value. So you'll find out now it consists of only two elements, Apple and Google. Okay, so in next case, we are simply adding this third one, that is Tesla, with the value 80. Again, we are reprinting, so it is reprinting. Then again, if you write pop item, so the last one, that is Tesla, was added at the end. So that will be removed from your existing dictionary that we have created. So pop as well as pop item, they provide you this speciality that when you remove that certain specified item using pop, or when you are removing the last entry using pop item, whatever you have removed, you can store that in some variable, so that if you want to use that removed value in future somewhere, then it is possible for us to do it. That's basically where your pop and pop item comes into the picture. I hope the difference in between pop and pop item is clear, and now there is no confusion in that area. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Okay, that's great. And associated with this, let us just try checking few more things. Yeah, you said something about the list, right? So we'll check about the list as well. So we'll simply create one list and we'll try to check how this remove function works on the list. So just give me a second, I'll create a list and then we'll discuss that. Meanwhile, there is something called as DL keyword as well. So that I'll first discuss because I just forgot in that pop and pop item. So like you have your pop and pop item, there is something called as DEL. Pop and pop item, these are nothing but the methods that are used to remove a certain value from or the last value from your dictionary. But you can have something called as a DEL keyword, which is again for a simplicity provided by the Python. So in this case, if you want to remove a certain element, say I just want to remove the discount element from this existing dictionary that we have created, then you can simply write DEL, then write the name of the dictionary that you have created, and then simply pass the key that you wanted to remove. So this is also possible. DEL is also one more way of performing the same thing. So these are just different ways of performing the similar type of task. Now coming back to the portion of list that was the main concern. So suppose say we are creating this very simple list of few elements which are repeated, say 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we are saying that numbers dot remove 3. So when you write like this, what do you think? 3 as a number will get removed or 3 as an index will get removed? I just hope my question is clear.
Can you repeat it once again?
Question is, we have created this list which consists of the elements, deliberately repeated elements 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are simply writing numbers dot remove 3. I simply want to ask you whether this 3 represents number 3 or whether the 3 represents index 3.
Number 3.
You have the output printed. So just check the output, and if you want, you can change your answer.
Okay, I think it will go on the element side.
Just think about it. You just have two answers in front of you. I'm giving you a time of 1 minute. Just think and let me know whether it is removing third index or whether it is removing the number 3.
Okay, I think I got the difference. So let's say in numbers dot remove 3.
So you are passing that element 3. That's what you
3,
want to
correct,
say.
correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the second one. So if we see the element 3, 0, 1, 2, and 3. The third element is 2.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
what I think.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. Let me just clarify this for you. So remove is basically the function that searches for the given element in the list. I deliberately gave this example so that we can discuss that difference in between index and the element. So it doesn't work with respect to the index, but it is working with respect to the value. So suppose you are passing this number dot remove and 3. So what it does, it will search for the first occurrence of 3 in that entire list. So first occurrence of 3 is over here. That's why this 3 is removed and you are getting the result 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next time, whatever the list that you are getting from that list, again, we are removing the number 2. That means it will search for the first occurrence of your resultant list after your first answer, and then it will try to remove that first occurrence and the result will be shown to you as a final list. So that's basically how it works. I hope this is clear. It will not remove all the occurrences. It will simply remove the first occurrence of that certain value that you have entered. And if the value that you are entering doesn't exist, then it is simply going to throw errors. So for example, if I write over here as 6, then it is giving me an error saying that this element doesn't exist. So suppose if it could have been with the help of index, I mean, agar ye index se hota, then this is your 0th index, this is 1st, this is 2nd, this is 3rd, this is 4th, this is 5th, and this is 6th. So according to the index, the 6th index is present, but the value 6 is not present. That's the reason it is generating an error that the value is not present. That's why you can see the error is value error. I hope this is clear.
yeah, it's clear now.
Yes, and now the difference of pop item is clear to you. That's going to be the universal, that is DEL, pop, and pop item. These are the universal kind of things. So that are exactly same as we have discussed with respect to dictionary. So they are going to remain same for the list as well. So in this case, if I just create the same list, so we'll discuss that as well. And if we just write at the end, numbers dot pop, and if I pass the value as 3, see now. So now it is removing the value which is present at the third index. So this is 0th index, this is 1st index, this is 2nd index, and this is 3rd index. So that's the reason that it's removing this value too, and that value is returned as a result, because pop always returns a result. And last, if we write this and simply write numbers dot pop item, It's generating error. Just a second. Let me just check. Just a second now. PIR of list. Yeah, pop item is not there for the list, so we can't use it. We can just have this pop, and as you said, we simply write numbers dot pop. Then it is returning you the last element. As you just said before some time that was the confusion, that when you use pop last time for the list, it returned you the last element. So the reason is, if you're simply using this pop function without any argument, so it is going to return you the element which is present at the last index. But if you are using pop and a certain index, then it is definitely going to remove the element which is present at that certain index which is given. Any doubts now with respect to pop item, delete and remove? I just hope I have cleared all the 4 things.
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay, that's great. So now let us just check some of the predefined functions which are available in Python, and we'll see something called as a string as well. So I'm changing a flow slightly because in order to understand user defined function, that was actually the next topic after predefined functions, you need to have a bit of the knowledge of if else and the other statements. So first we'll do string, then we'll check some of the inbuilt functions, or first we'll check the inbuilt function, then string, then some conditional statements, and then we'll again come back to how to create our own functions and so on. Okay, so some of the inbuilt functions available in Python. So there are a lot of inbuilt functions available in Python, and it's slightly difficult to use all of them or to explain all of them in this short period of time. So I'll explain few of them, and I'll share you one cheat sheet where you can find out all the functions and their respective syntax and how to use it. So that whenever you'll get a time, you can also try all those functions, and they are very simple. So suppose we have an integer with the value, say -20. And if we write like this, ABS, and if we pass this integer, then it returns the value as 20. So from this, what we have understood, that ABS is a function that returns absolute value of given number. So if you are passing positive number, then obviously the positive number absolute value is also positive. If you are passing any negative number, then in that case, it will convert it into positive. Let me just try doing this like this. So from this, we have understood that it is not only implementable for integers, but it is also implementable for floats as well. So pass anything, which comes under the numerical category. If that number or if that magnitude is negative, then it is going to convert it into positive. That's basically what the ABS or absolute does for us. And I think we have used, all of us have used it some or the other way in in our maths. So we all know about what do we mean by this absolute. Then comes the next function. For that, let me just create one small list. So this is a list, small list that I have created, and I simply write all k, and I try to print the result. It is generating the result as true, and now I'll simply write k is equal to 0, 1, 2. I'll again write all k. It's returning the result as false. Let me write one more example just in order to clarify this argument. Writing this false to 9, and let us just check all of k. Again the result is false, and one last try, 100, 200, 300, and let us try to check all of k. The result is again true. So we got the result true at this instance, we got result false at this instant, we got result true at this, we got result false at this instance that we have tried, And here we got the result as true. Kuch logic? Can you find any logic behind it? Why this is true, this is false, false and true? I mean, can you just guess what this function is doing actually? So basically it is,
Yeah, I
Yes.
was just trying to understand that.
Okay, it seems slightly vague, right? Yeah. So basically what all does is, it will return the answer true if all the entries are true. It will return the answer as false if any of the entry is false. So basically in all programming languages, 0 is considered as false, and apart from 0, all the numbers are considered as true. So it can be fractional number, positive number, negative number, whatever it is. Any number is considered as true, but 0 is considered as false. So that's why whenever we pass this certain list, it was consisting of all the positive numbers, and it was consisting of all the numbers except 0. That's more appropriate statement. That's why it is returning with the result as true. Next time we tried with this list, which was having the value 0, 1 and 2. As 0 is present in this list, 0 is considered as a false. So it found out that one entry is false, and because of that, it is generating the result as false. In the next case, again, we tried this combination where we are passing the values false, 2 and 9. Again, it captured that the first entry that you have passed is itself is a false, so it won't check for the rest of the entries. The result is false. Next time, whenever I pass this statement, that is 100, 200 and 300, again all the values are the values except zeros. So these values are not having any value as a 0. That's basically what I want to say, and that's the reason all the values are true in the case. And so the result of all of k is returning you as true. I hope now it is clear that what the all does. So all returns true if all entries are true. That is without 0 or false. That's basically what the all does. Is it clear?
Yes,
What the all is doing? Okay, that's great. Next one is rather simple. You will easily guess what it is doing. So I'm creating this one variable x is equal to 10. Let me write y is equal to bin x, and let me print this entry y. Okay, just forget just don't look for this 0b. You can, the actual answer is 1010. Do you come from computer background or from non-technical background?
non-technical background.
Okay, then no issues. Then this you might not be aware about. There is something which is called as a binary number. So computer understands the language of 0 and 1, to which we generally called as a binary. So whatever we write or whatever we type, that basically gets converted into all this ones and zeros. Then that becomes interpretable by the machine, and then machine reacts the way as in which we have sent command to the machine. So every number representation can be done in a binary, or there are some other type of representations called as hexadecimal or octal numbers and so on, out of which binary is the very famous one. So it's simply the binary conversion of your number 10. That's basically what 1010 is. If you want to know more about the binary and the other types of numbers, either you can search it. It's very simple. You can get it. Otherwise, you can simply ask to me. I'll give you one simple, PDF kind of thing to it, so that you will come to know how this conversion actually happens. But this is basically, it's converting that number into binary format. I hope this is clear. These are nothing but the language. The binary is nothing but the language which computer understands, and these are nothing but the higher level codes that we write. So that codes eventually gets converted into the machine understandable language, and binary is one format of that certain category of machine understandable languages. That's basically the conversion of 10. It's done as 1010, and the 0b is nothing but the code of binary. That's basically what this is returned. Anyways, no issues with that. Let's move for the next one. There is one more very interesting method called as EXEC. So let's check that. As I said, there are a lot of methods. I'm just taking few of them which are very famous and which are used widely. So let us just first try solving something so that you will come to know what this function does. And I'll simply write over here print x is equal to 8. And I just wait for the result. The result is true. And then I'll simply write print. Here I'll say x plus 4. The result is 12. I think you'll easily guess this. So basically, this is executing the statement inside your function itself. So if you don't want to write it the outside function like x is equal to x plus 5 that we generally write, this is also one way. So what you have to do, you just have to write this EXEC and then you can use this print function. Write the expression that you want to evaluate within that print function and you will get the result on the screen. Basically, it is not widely used in most of the scenarios because you can simply type your expressions and you can store them in the variables and you can get the values. But yes, this is also one of the way of executing the expressions and getting their value. So you can use this EXEC. So most of the times when we refer the codes generally from the book or from any resources, that time they have the habit of sometimes directly writing the expressions in the script, or sometimes they use something called as a eval function, or sometimes they use something called as the EXEC function. So we should not get confused that what that function does for us. So it is as good as writing the expression and solving it on your normal coding window. So you are simply using this EXEC function. Inside that you are using print function, and inside that you are writing any expression that you want to evaluate. That's it. So that's the use of this function. Then comes a very simple function but very useful function for any calculations. I just hope from the name itself it's very clear that what that function is going to do for us. So if I simply write print s, it's providing you the value. There is one more way of using the sum function. So for example, if I have list of elements, say 1, 3, 5, and if I'm writing 10, and if I evaluate this, and if I simply try to print the value which is present inside S1, so again, you can get the value as 90. So what I want to say from this, that this particular function, that is sum function, it takes 2 arguments, but the second argument is optional. So if you are passing some collection, like say a list that I'm passing over here, it will simply find out the summation of all the entries which are present inside that list. And if you have forgotten, suppose, or if you have any other value that you are taking from some other variable which is there present in your code, so you can simply pass on that value over here. So it will simply add that value into your existing answer. So this is also one more option available in order to run your sum function. You cannot pass more than this. I mean, ये ऐसे series pass मत करना, like 10, 20 and something like that. Then definitely it is going to throw the error because it can take 2 arguments and 3 arguments or 4 arguments or 5 arguments we can't pass. Max to max we can pass 2 arguments, or you can simply pass 1 argument in the collection. So this is basically what's the use of the sum function. I think that's very simple to understand. Next is let us just try next function. I just spoke something about eval function before some time. So let me just work on that function. So if I'm writing x is equal to 8, and then I simply write print eval, and inside eval, I'll pass this expression, say x plus 1. Let us just try to run this expression. So it is generating the value as 9. So similar to that of your EXEC function that we have just used before some time, you can use this eval function as well. Whatever value that you want to evaluate, whatever expression that you want to evaluate, you can simply pass that inside this eval function. Just remember, when we were passing EXEC, we were writing EXEC first, then we were writing print, and then we were passing the expression. When you use eval, so you first write print, Then inside that print, you write eval, and then inside that you write something like this. So where it is generally useful, so if you have something like, two values, and there are multiple lines that you want to print. Like for example, age का एक value है, and suppose there is a BMI का value which is stored in a certain variable, and there is a paragraph in that. Suppose the information of BMI and everything is written in that paragraph at a certain position. Within that print or within that paragraph only, you want to evaluate a certain expression, or you want to evaluate a certain mathematical equation. Then in that case, this eval will come as a handy tool for it. So you can write the statement and you can simply evaluate certain expression within those statements. So that is possible if you are using this eval. So that's basically what's the use of that eval. But frankly speaking, if you are using this, in your day-to-day life, we generally use those writing the expressions like how we have written over here, or simple expressions that we write, like create a variable, pass the value, write a plus b and something like that. That's the most used way in day-to-day life. But yes, these are all the alternatives which are available in case if you want to use it. So I just hope this function is clear to you, that how we use it. Then there is one more function which is very, very and very simple that you can easily understand. That's a float function. So if I'm writing 9, which is the integer value, you can get to see that it is giving the value of the float as 9.0. So basically float will convert any value that you pass to it into the float format. That is nothing but the format that can accept your integers as well as your decimal numbers or fractional numbers. So in that case, 9 will automatically get converted into 9.0. So basically these methods, that is float or int, these are used for something called as the explicit conversions. That means explicitly you want to convert a certain value from float to integer or from integer to float, then we can use all these functions. So I just hope this function is rather simple to understand. Yeah, there is one more thing that we can write with the float. So print float, and let me pass 22.26. Yes, this is the advantage of using the float function. So if you just see, I have passed the value 22.26 in double quote format. That means the value is passed in a string format. But as you are using the float function, it is converting that value into a float format, and then it is printing the value 22.26. So this is basically where all these functions are used for the explicit conversion from one format of data to the another format of data. हाँ, but if you say कि मैं यहाँ पे print float में I'll write this, and now let me just show कि इसका value क्या आता है. It's not going to be uniqaksha.0, right? Because it's not number at the end of it. So if you are passing the number, then that number, if it is present in the string format or it is present inside your normal digit format, that will get converted into float. But if you are deliberately passing something called as a string, then obviously it's not possible to convert that into float format. So that's very understandable kind of thing, that it's not possible. Then there is something formatting we have discussed. So there is a function called as format. Let me just show you. And these functions, ये जो format function है, that will, I mean, if you are aware about language called as C, C++, then this is slightly relatable to that. Or let me just write some statements, so it will be easier for me to explain all in one shot. Print format, and I'm passing this 12, and the third one is B, that stands for binary. Okay, sorry, while saying I just said the answer as well. Anyway, so we just want to print the result, because if you just don't write print, then we know that one cell at a time can return only one value. So that's the reason why we are using print over here. Format is the predefined function which requires 2 arguments. The first argument is the number that you want to pass, and the second argument may if you write simply D, then it will represent the result in integer format. If you write F, then it will represent the result in float format. And if you write D, then it will represent the result in binary format. So this D stands for integer, F stands for float, and B stands for the binary. So that's the reason why we can use this format with, all this numbers, and we can convert them or we can represent them in the way that we want to represent, either in numerical or in float or in binary. Okay, so I just hope this part is clear. Any doubts till this?
Oh, it's clear.
Okay, that's great. Let's check few more functions. I mean, you won't actually understand ki iska, where it is used, ya fir, what's the importance of these functions. But yes, whenever finally you will move to the slightly, higher complex topics, I could say, like classes or creating objects, or creating user-defined functions or inheritance, or the later topics that we have, that time you will understand that yes, it do makes a lot of sense. Next is okay, just pardon me for that noise. Actually, it's festival season, so we have this in Bombay. Anyway, so suppose say I'm writing A is equal to complex, and let me pass the value, say 1. I'm passing this, and let us just check what does this A consist of. So as you can see, it is converting the given entry into the complex format. So complex format requires 2 entries or 2 things to be passed, real entity and something called as imaginary. You don't have anything to pass as an imaginary because you have simply passed the number 1. So that's the reason it is assuming the imaginary as 0, and J that's an indication of imaginary. So that's why 1 and 0 J is written. Let me show you one more example so that the things will be even more clear. So if I'm writing 1, 2 now, and if I simply try to print this B, then you will get to see that it's printing 1 plus 2J. So 1 is the real part and 2 is the imaginary part. Jiske end mein it attaches J. That's an indication that that's the real part, and the another one is the one with the J is the imaginary type of part. So complex numbers are treated differently than your normal numbers whenever it comes to their division or addition or multiplication and all the other things. That's why you have to be very specific that wherever you want to use integer, use integers, wherever you want to use complex, and so on. There is one more very interesting function called as div mod available in Python. So if you just split that word, it's division and modulus. So it has the capability to provide you the result of division and modulus simultaneously. So for example, if I am writing something like this, result is equal to div mod 10, 2. And if you simply print the value of the result, then it shows 5 and 0. So obviously when you divide 10 by 2, the quotient is 5. That's generally given by your diff, and mod gives you the remainder. So it's a complete division. That's why remainder is 0. So there is no need of running 2 separate functions or 2 separate operators, one for the division and one for the modulus. You can use this div mod function that can directly give you the value for the division as well as for the modulus. Then minimum and max, I think it's very handy as well as it's very simple to understand as well. So for example, I'm creating something like this, x is equal to minimum of, and let me pass few of the values. And let's print what's there inside x. So it will print the minimum value in the given tuple. Now in this case, I have used the tuple. If you want, you could have used the list as well. It works for the list as well as it works for the tuple. It's a kind of universal function. So the next thing is set and dictionary. I'm not explaining it because we had a lot of discussion. They are also, the inbuilt functions of the inbuilt function of the Python. So your list, your tuple, dictionary and set, these are also the inbuilt function and we have already seen them. Let us see one interesting function. Let me just show you. If I'm writing string is equal to, rather I would like str1 is equal to Prachi, or let me write Unikaksha, and I'm writing sorted 1 is equal to sorted str1. Let me just print sorted 1. I think the example is self-explanatory to understand what it is doing.
Yeah,
So it is
it's
sorting, yeah,
SMN.
in the alphabetical way in the ascending order. And if you simply copy this, let me paste this over here. I'll call this as sorted 2, and here I'll simply add reverse is equal to true, and let's simply try to print this sorted 2. So it is just a reverse sort. That means your highest value will be represented first, and then eventually the value would reduce. That's basically how it does. Then comes your int function. So int function will convert your values into integer. So for example, if I'm writing value 1 is equal to int of 10, it won't affect anything because the value itself is an integer value. If I write value 2 is equal to int of 10.52, what do you think? What will be the output of this? So let me just print this. You can guess the output till that time. So as you are saying that convert this 10.52 into integer. So obviously it will take only the integer part. 0.52 is the fractional part. So that will not be considered. You will lose on that data and it will store the value as 10. What will happen if I just pass the value val3 is equal to int of, I'm passing this as 10 here, and let us try to print this value. So as the same thing as it did for the float, it will convert. I mean, it will take only that value out of it. I mean, though it is represented as a string, but it will fetch out that value. That value is 10, and 10 is obviously a numerical type of value. So if that converted into integer, the answer is going to remain 10 because it doesn't have any kind of fractional part associated with it. That's basically how it works. So rather simple function. Then there is one more mathematical and very handy kind of function. You'll easily come to know what is the use of that function. I mean, you can guess it as well whenever I'm writing it. So second power of 4, so 4 square basically. So the answer is 16. So POV function, that is calculating the power. You can use the combinations, like you can write -4 over here, and then you can check the answer is again going to remain same, or you can simply check -2 over here. See, so I just hope you know that indices and the reverse indices. So using the same logic of the maths, it is generating the powers in the positive and in the negative way. I hope this is clear. It's y raised to, or what we say, it's x raised to minus y, that is 4 raised to -2. So that's basically you are getting the result in decimal points, that is 0.0625. Then yeah, one more very interesting function. You might have done this function in list, I'm not sure. That's called as a range function. So if you simply try to print range 4, then it simply generates the result as range 04. That doesn't make any sense, right? So in order to make it sense, you have to write print list of range 4. Let us just check what's the result it prints. So it gives you starting with the 0 as a index, you can say it is providing you the number 0, 1, 2, 3. So the numbers will be created and they will be stored in terms of list, and they are printed because you are using print function. adds the outermost function over here. Let us just try one more variant of this so that the thing will be even more clear to you. Range, and in this case, let me suppose pass the value 4, 10. Let me print this. So the answers are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So start is, I mean, if you are simply writing like this, then obviously you are saying that you want to have the element till the number -1. So in this case, number -1 matlab it will start obviously with 0, because in Python, if you don't assign a start for numerical sequence, then it has to start with 0. That's how it is designed. So 1, 2, and 3. Here it will stop because your stopping point is 4. So the list creation will stop just before 1 unit from that stopping point. So that's the reason if you just see over here you are specifying the starting point and the stopping point. So the starting point is 4. So the creation of the list will start with the 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, and then 9. It won't write that 10 because whatever end you provide -1. So that end -1 is nothing but the end of list in the pipe. I mean, that's how the things works in start end for the range function. So I just hope this is clear. So if you want the number still 10, if you want 10 to be printed, then you have to write 11 over here. Then it will print 10. If you want 50 to be printed, then you have to write 51 over here. Then it will print 50. So this is one thing that you need to, very careful about whenever you are writing any index related code or any sequence related code in Python. There is one more argument that you can pass to this range, and very simple. Say I'm passing this 4, 20, and 2, and I'm running this. This is the outcome, or this is the output. Can you guess what it is doing? Any guess was what this function is doing? So you are passing the starting point, you are passing the ending point, and you are passing something called as step. So step is 2, start is 4, and end is 20. And the result is there in front of you. It is generating the list starting with 4, then 6, then 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. It has stopped at 18 because you mentioned your stopping point should be 20. So obviously the end should be 1 less than that. That's why it's 18. And you have specified the step size of 2. That's why it is incrementing every value by skipping one immediate next value. And that's why the answer is 4, 6, 8, 10. So on the same, using the same logic, if I just ask you to print odd numbers in range of 1 to 25, how will you write the code? I want 25 to be included in my answer.
Okay, so 25. So
it will be print
list
range.
Then it will be 1.
Correct.
Then it will be 20.
26 would do.
26 would do, and 1.
1 is the by default.
Yeah, 1 is the by default.
So you can have this value 25 included. What you simply have to think is, I want 25 as the value, so I have to pass the upper limit greater than that 25. And obviously, if I pass something like 50 or 60, so utne next numbers bhi holega. But I wanted it to get restricted to 25, so I just added one more number that is equal to 26 over there. And yeah, there is something which is very interesting about this range function. Let us just check that as well. So suppose I'm creating range 1 is equal to, say, range of 8 to, suppose, say, one number 12. And I'm writing print list reversed, and we'll pass this range 1. So the range of 8 till 12, if you pass in the list format, then also it is okay. If you don't pass in the list format, then display karte waqt it displays like this. I mean, range 8 12. It doesn't displays that entire list of the elements in between that range. But yes, obviously, whenever you are passing that to some other variable, it will take that as 8, 9, 11, and 8, 9, 10, and 11. Your last entry is 12, so obviously the elements will be till 11 only. And then you're simply using this reverse function. So it will simply reverse your values. So you'll get a result as 11, 12, 9, 8, and so on. I mean, this function you can try with everything. So for example, I'm creating a tuple, and let me write tuple 1, just in order to, avoid any kind of, because tuple is inbuilt function. So I just want to assign that name to any variable. And I'm writing over here as Unikaksha. So this is the tuple created by us, and we are writing print, then we'll say list, then we'll say reversed, and we'll pass this tuple 1 that we have created. So this will also print your string that you have passed, or the elements, that's the correct word, that you have passed in the reversed order. So likewise, you could have created the list as well. If you want, you can type this in list format. I mean, you simply have to change this round bracket to a square bracket, and let me just call this as list 1, and I'll simply copy paste this code as it is. Just for understanding, I'll write Unikaksha 1 so that you won't get confused with the previous answer. And here I'll pass that list 1, this. So this is it was. So the thing that I wanted to say is, it will reverse, or it can reverse your string, or it can reverse your tuple, it can reverse your range, it can reverse your list. So whatever that sequence structure that you pass, if you are using this reverse structure, it is going to reverse. Then there is one more interesting function called as round function. So print round, if I simply write 10.23, I think my numlock is not working. Yes, so it will simply give you the rounded value. We all know how to round the values. So that's basically how the round function works. So it will simply round your value to the nearest possible positive, or nearest possible integer. So there won't be any decimal points in your answer. That's it. So these are few of the functions that we have just discussed. As I said, there are other functions as well. For example, ID is one function that we have discussed before few sessions. Then type is one function that is available just to check the data type. And str is a function which is used to create the string and so on. So these are other functions that are available. So what I will do is I will share that cheat sheet which consists of all the functions and their meaning and their syntax that you can go through. And these are few of the functions that I have just chosen which are used in the white case. And so we can start with the next topic for the day, that is nothing but string. We'll try to cover few methods of the string, and whatever is remaining, we'll try to cover it into next session. But I just want to understand that whatever all methods that we have discussed so far, are they clear? Is there any doubt in all those methods? In any of those methods?
I think it's clear.
Okay, so as I said, if you, I mean, I'll provide few of the exercise based on that. So if you're solving that, so there won't be any, doubts as such, because confusions generally we have that which method to use, with which type of data. And that confusion can be cleared only and only if we are solving multiple exercises as much as possible. So we'll solve that so that that confusion won't be there. Anyways, unique Kaksha is the string that I am created. It's very simple to create a string in Python. You just have to write the name of variable. It's actually, if you are writing str or tuple or list as the list name or as a variable name, Python does accept it. But sometimes, there are chances that if you are using list or something like that, so the interpreter get confused. And then unnecessarily you might get some errors. And that's why it is always suggested that don't use the inbuilt function name or any variable as such. So that's just suggested, but if you want, you can use it as well. Okay, let me just write few of the code statements so that you will understand how it's working. Just give me 1 second. Let me just write it. Let's start with a simple one with 0. I think you have done with the indexing of list or indexing of the tuple. So this will be very simple for you to understand. I'll just write few more code statements and we'll simultaneously evaluate all of them. Say from str1, here I will add the trailing element as 3 and print str1, where I'll add the element from 4 to 7. Okay, I'm running all the statements. So this is the code and this is the output. I just want you to take a glance at this code and output for a minute, and then we'll discuss what that every slicing is doing in our code. Okay, just go through the code.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Okay, so let's discuss the first one, what it is doing.
The starting point is 0 element and the
Mhm.
end point is till A. So it is
Correct.
taking the all elements.
Correct.
The starting in the second example, in the starting element is 1. So 0, 1, that is n. And the end stop point is 5, which is 5 minus 1, which is 4. So fourth element is A. So that is why it is taken NIKA.
Correct.
The third is the same. The starting is 2. So 0, 1, 2, I.
Perfect.
And 4 minus 1 is 3.
Very nice.
So it has taken the third element as K.
Correct.
The next example is the starting point is 0, which is U.
Perfect.
And the end point is n minus 1, which is 2.
Correct.
So U and I. And the same example goes with the last one.
Very
Starting
nice.
point is
Perfect.
4 and 6.
Correct. Correct. So that means positive indexing is clear. Let us just try. I mean, in a similar way, I'll try to write some code for negative index, and you can try, again guessing the outputs. str1, let me just make it slightly complicated. Print str1. I will pass -3. Print str1. I'll pass -2 this time with dot. I'll write str1. I'll pass -4 and -2. I will write print one more time, similar type of example. -7, -2, and the last one, print str1. this colon minus 1, which is very famous. Okay. You want me to run this output and then you will guess, or you will try to guess the outputs?
Maybe I can guess the output.
Okay. So you first guess the outputs and then I'll print all the statements.
Okay. So the first one is -1, which is A.
Mm-hmm.
Second is -3, which is S.
Very nice.
Third is -2, which is H till U.
ठीक है.
The next one is starting point is -4, which is K, and KSH is the answer. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 till 7th in negative indexing is I. So I till H.
I till H.
Yeah.
Okay, your first answer, that is -1, is A, right? That's what you said for the
Yeah.
first one. That is
Yeah.
correct. For the second answer, you said for -3, the answer should be S, right?
Correct. Correct.
Then for this one, -2 until dot. So what did you say? I just, sorry, I forgotten what you said the answer for this.
H till
We will
U.
start with H. H till U. Okay.
Yeah.
Just see, this -2 is written on the left hand side, right? And right hand
Correct.
side there is nothing. So right hand side always, I mean, it's very funny statement, but right hand side is you just have to look to the right of -2. So if I say that -2 is H, so including H, uske right hand side pe kya hai? So uske right hand side pe A hai. So the answer for this would be HA. I hope that is clear.
Okay, just a minute. Like A is -1, H is -2. So
-2.
starting, we are
Point
doing
is
at -2.
So -2 se leke you have to go to the end of the string on the right side because you are writing colon here.
Okay, got it. Understood.
Correct. And what about this? Now you can, I think, guess this easily.
Yeah, this one is good. This K till A. Sorry, K till H.
Till H. यहाँ पे range है.
-4.
And -2. So you have to think -4 and -2 -1. That is equal to -3, right? So from
-1. It would be n-1 if it's a.
So -2 -1. It is -3, na?
Okay, okay.
So you will start with -4 and you will end with -3. So that's basically K and S. I hope this is clear.
Yeah, now it's clear.
ये थोड़ा सा tricky है, I know. What about this?
-7 is I.
Correct.
And -2 is S.
-2 is S or H?
Like n-1 karna hai na? So -2
n-1 is S, correct. That is, you are looking for -3. So you want to say the answer will be I, K, A, K,
S.
S. Correct, correct. That's perfect. And what about this last one? Can you guess?
The starting point is A. The end is, there is no end to it.
Exactly. That means all elements. And here -1 is written.
Yeah.
This is basically a specific, or you can say the special type of indexing available for your strings or your list or for your tuple, that when you write like this, it prints all the elements in the reverse. So the answer will be A, H, S, K, A, K, I, N, U. So the entire string will be represented in the reverse order. That's it. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
Oh, let me just run this so that we can verify all our answers. Yes, these are the answers. You can verify your answers.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there was a slight confusion over here, but that also got cleared by now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other function of the strings, I'll start tomorrow. I mean, in the next session, whenever we'll meet, I think on Friday, right? Today is
Correct.
Wednesday, yes. So on Friday, we'll discuss the other string functions and conditional statements, and then we'll go for the user-defined functions. Okay. So I just hope whatever we have done today, that is clear to you. And I'll share this file so that if you have missed on any of the code, you can get that code. And there are few extra exercise questions that also I'll share with you whenever you'll get time. Please do solve it so that वो functions का जो थोड़ा सा fear और थोड़ा सा confusion है, that will not be there. Fine?
And Prachi, yeah.
Yeah.
Prachi, for previous sessions के जो भी notebook and slides हैं, वो भी क्या
हाँ.
share आप कर सकते हैं?
हाँ, ठीक है, चलेगा. So just a second. Dhruv sir, can we create a drive to share the files? Is it fine?
Akbar, will it be fine if I let you know by this tomorrow? I will have to have a word with Manoj sir because I need his approval. So I hope we can do. So I'll have a word with him. And Ankur, will it be fine if I, even if we share, so you'll be having slides for all the sessions. You already have the recordings I have been sending you, right, on your email?
Yeah.
So I'll just let you know by tomorrow, and we can have a place where we can share all the slides, and for reference, you can just check. Right, Ankur?
Yeah, sure.
All right, all right.
Okay, so if you have any doubts, Ankur, we can share, discuss it now, or the topics that I just wanted to discuss for the day, they are over from my side.
Great. So I'll practice it, Prachi, and
Yeah.
So
If
then
you
on
get
the
any
next
doubt,
class-
then yes, definitely we'll solve.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so see you soon. Bye-bye. Have a
Bye-bye.
nice,
Thank you.
Thanks, Ankur. Thanks, everyone. Have a very good evening. Bye-bye.
yeah,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.